Today we're counting down 10 ancient animals that were basically living nightmares. Creatures so massive, so strange, and so dangerous. They look like something from a monster movie, but the scary part? They were real. Let's start with something that sounds completely fake. A snake bigger than a school bus. Meet Titanoboa, the largest snake ever discovered. This monster lived around 60 million years ago, and it could grow over 40 feet long. That's longer than some houses. And unlike modern snakes, Titanoboa wasn't hiding from everything. It was one of the top predators in its environment. Scientists think it hunted by ambushing animals near rivers, including giant prehistoric crocodile relatives. Imagine walking through an ancient swamp and realizing the log in the water just moved. That wasn't a log, that was a snake. A snake big enough to make today's largest snakes look tiny. If Titanoboa wasn't enough, the ancient rivers had something even worse. Sarcosuchus, a crocodile-like predator that looked like it was built from pure aggression. It could grow over 30 feet long, and its skull alone was massive. This wasn't a modern crocodile. This was a living ambush machine. Scientists think Sarcosuchus could attack animals near the water, possibly even dinosaurs, because during its time, dinosaurs weren't the only dangerous creatures around. The rivers had their own monsters, and honestly, a giant crocodile waiting underwater is already terrifying. Making it the size of a truck just feels unnecessary. Now imagine a lizard, but make it huge. Then make it a predator. Meet Megalania, the largest land lizard ever known. This creature lived in Australia thousands of years ago, and it could reach over 20 feet long. Basically, a Komodo dragon upgraded into a nightmare. Megalania had powerful jaws, sharp teeth, and a body built for hunting. Some scientists think it may have even had venom, meaning this wasn't just a giant lizard. It was a giant, dangerous lizard. The kind of animal that makes you rethink walking anywhere in prehistoric Australia. Now, let's talk about a predator that looked like a normal bear. Until you realize the size, meet the short-faced bear, one of the largest land predators in recent history, standing on its back legs. It may have been taller than a human, much taller, and it wasn't just big, it was built for speed, with long legs and a powerful body. This wasn't a slow forest animal. This was a giant predator that could chase prey across open land. Basically, imagine a bear, then remove every limitation. That was the short-faced bear. Now we get to one of the strangest predators ever discovered. Meet Andrewsarchus. And honestly, we don't even know exactly what it looked like, because scientists only found part of the skull. But that skull was enough to reveal something terrifying. It had massive jaws, huge teeth, and a head bigger than many modern predators. For years, people imagined it as a giant wolf-like monster. But later discoveries suggested it may have been closer to a giant hoofed mammal relative, which somehow makes it even weirder, because evolution created a giant predator from an animal group you wouldn't expect. Basically, nature looked at a normal animal and said, give it teeth. If you think pigs are harmless, you have never met an entelodont, also known as the hell pig. And yes, that name is deserved. These animals were huge. Some species were over 10 feet long, with massive skulls, powerful jaws, and terrifying teeth. But the weird part? They weren't exactly giant pigs. They were their own strange branch of evolution. They likely ate almost anything. Plants, small animals, dead creatures, whatever was available. Imagine seeing something that looks like a pig, but behaves like a predator. That was Entelodont, a reminder that prehistoric life had no interest in being normal. Now let's look at a predator from the sky. Haast's eagle, the largest eagle ever known. And this wasn't an eagle that hunted small animals. It hunted giants. Its main prey was the moa, a giant flightless bird that could weigh hundreds of pounds. Haast's eagle had huge claws and a powerful body. Some estimates suggest its wingspan reached around 10 feet, meaning the sky itself had a monster. Imagine looking up and seeing an eagle that looks more like a flying dinosaur. That was Haast's eagle. Not every nightmare was a predator. Some were just enormous. Meet Paraceratherium, one of the largest land mammals ever. This giant relative of the rhino had a long neck and massive legs. It could reach heights of around 16 feet. That's basically a small building walking around. But despite its size, it was probably a plant eater, which sounds peaceful until you remember. This was an animal the size of a truck. Even a harmless giant can look terrifying when nature makes it this big. And now, one of the ultimate prehistoric nightmares, Deinosuchus, a crocodile relative that was absolutely enormous. It could grow over 30 feet long, with a bite powerful enough to crush bones. This thing lived alongside dinosaurs, and scientists think it may have hunted them. Imagine a dinosaur approaching a river, only to realize the water itself is hiding a giant predator, because the most dangerous part of prehistoric Earth wasn't always on land. Sometimes, the nightmare was waiting underwater. Now let's talk about one of the most famous predators ever, the saber-toothed cat, Smilodon. And yes, those giant teeth were real. But the scary part wasn't just the fangs. Smilodon had a powerful body built for taking down large prey. Unlike modern big cats, it was extremely muscular, almost like evolution built a cat, then turned the strength slider all the way up. Those giant canines were not just for showing off. They were part of a specialized hunting strategy. The exact details are still debated. But one thing is clear. This was not a normal cat. This was a predator built for a prehistoric world. Now, imagine an elephant, but covered in thick fur and built to survive frozen worlds. Meet the woolly mammoth. These giants lived through the Ice Age with huge tusks, massive bodies, and thick coats. They were not predators, but they were still intimidating, because when an animal is several tons, even peaceful creatures become incredible forces of nature. A herd of mammoths moving across the landscape would have looked like an army. And honestly, it makes modern elephants look small. Now for something that sounds like a legend, a giant ape. Meet Gigantopithecus, the largest ape ever known. It may have stood much taller than modern humans and lived in the forests of Asia. The strange thing, we don't have a complete skeleton, only teeth and jaw fossils, which means scientists are still figuring out exactly what this giant looked like. But one thing is certain, there was once an ape so massive, it makes the idea of a giant forest creature feel a little less impossible. So, let's review. A snake longer than a bus, a crocodile that hunted dinosaurs, a giant lizard, a bear bigger than humans, a giant eagle, a giant ape, and predators with teeth built for destruction. And somehow, this was normal life on Earth. The scary part about prehistoric animals is that they weren't monsters. They were just animals, surviving in a world where being bigger, stronger, and stranger gave you an advantage. The next time someone says prehistoric animals were just dinosaurs, remember this list, because dinosaurs were only one part of Earth's story. The planet has created creatures that look impossible, creatures that would feel like movie monsters, but every single one was real. And the craziest part, we are still discovering new fossils, which means somewhere underground, there may still be another ancient nightmare waiting to be found. Something bigger, stranger, and completely unexpected. Because the history of life on Earth is always more unbelievable than fiction.